All right, so I just want to mention this last one, installing crAPI. You need crAPI, and crAPI, it turns out, is very hard to install. The instructions they give you don't work very well. crAPI runs in a Docker container. And the point of Docker containers is they're supposed to run on any operating system just fine, but in fact, they don't. In fact, I was ready to give up. I spent like a day or two installing crAPI, and it always failed until I found out you must use Ubuntu 18.04. If you use any other operating system, it will fail. Now, the whole point of Docker containers is it's not supposed to have sensitivity like that, but it does. So if you use Ubuntu 18.04, then the official instructions almost work, but there are a few gotchas. So I just wrote up a project so people that want to install crAPI can do it. And so I'll be able to remember how to do it. So anyway, you install Docker, which is a few commands, but the problem is when you run the official Docker install script, it also has a bug. It misidentifies Ubuntu as Debian, and everything will crash. So you have to go into the apt sources list, Docker line, and you have to fix this line back to Ubuntu instead of Debian. Then you can do an update, and now you can install Docker. Now, you're not out of trouble yet. For some ungodly reason, when you install Docker from the official repositories, it does not install an essential tool called docker-compose. And if you do install docker-compose with a separate apt-get, it installs a version that is so old it doesn't work. So you have to get Docker Compose directly from a GitHub instead and change it to executable, and then you get a sufficiently new version of Docker Compose. This is the way Linux always is. Every time you do anything on Linux, this stuff happens to you. You get used to it. So now this has got everything you need. Now you have to execute a few commands to start some processes and make it automatically start. No, usually everything on Mac OS is 10 times worse, unless it's like a commercial product. If you put Linux-based products on Mac OS, you usually end up in a nightmare. So now you install crAPI, you clone the GitHub repository, and run this script called build all, and the build all script actually works. It takes about 10 minutes, but it does actually work. By the way, on one of these operating systems, it looks like it's working, and you can open the page, but you can't create an account because the database is not working. Because this thing is actually 8 Docker containers, and one of them is the database, and that one doesn't work. Anyway, let's just use Ubuntu, and you'll save yourself a lot of grief. So now you make a script to start your Docker, which is this thing called start crAPI, and that uses the docker compose command to start your script. And then when you run Docker, it will only listen on localhost. Everybody likes to make security products this way. It only lists on 127.0.0.1, which is pretty inconvenient. I want to make it available to other machines on my network. So I did that by forwarding ports with SOCAT. SOCAT can just forward those ports to a public port. So then you can go to root and make 3 lines of cron tab. These are the SOCAT listeners. So port 80 will take the local host 8088. And then you can just, that's the normal HTTP port. You'll be able to open things in a browser. And here's, by the way, the email client I mentioned on 8025. I forwarded it to 18025. You could go there and read the emails and get your token, but you don't have to for anything I've done so far. And here's the thing that will automatically start crAPI. So you do all that, and now if you reboot the server, it'll work. You'll have a crAPI on HTTP, not HTTPS. The reason my public one is HTTPS is because I ran it through Cloudflare. And then you can just go and do netstat to find a flag to turn in, see which processors are listening. But anyway, it's very simple. This is the way their official instructions are, but there were enough gotchas that I wanted to record it. So if anybody wants to make your own server, that's my recommended procedure. And that's it.